Welcome back to my channel, guys. This is Coach DC from All 22 Films, and tonight I've got a video that is going to focus on the Declan Doyle offense that we think we're going to see in Baltimore for 2026. He's got a ton of options from a personnel standpoint. Of course, Ricard is gone, obviously, went with Harbaugh to New York, so it'll all be 11, 12, or 13 personnel. Really going to talk about Ben Johnson-related concepts that not only did we see last year in 2025 in Chicago, his first year there as the head coach and then play caller, when Doyle was the offensive coordinator, obviously, but even some stuff that we saw in Detroit previously. For me, there's a lot of convergence as far as the time that I have spent watching the Ben Johnson offense, prior to him leaving Detroit after the 2024 season. This is a little bit of projection on my part of what this could look like. Things that would be applicable in Baltimore, run schemes, play action, if you will, that really fits our personnel and doesn't rely on the gravity of Lamar Jackson for the overwhelming majority of the offensive concepts to succeed. So this first one, to be honest with you, is going to give me a chance to talk about some older film that I broke down that was Detroit Lions-esque. So this first one is called Broken Bunch, or what I refer to as Broken Bunch. It's a 12 personnel grouping, so 2 tight ends on the field. And I'm going to focus my analysis here from 2 games in 2025 against AFC North opponents. One, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then the next one will be the Cleveland Browns. This is a geometrically difficult formation to deal with. When I say broken bunch, I'm talking about that tight end to the top side not being attached to those 2 receivers. An actual bunch would have this tight end moved or shifted out next to those 2 to create an actual bunch formation. Broken bunch, like I said, it geometrically challenges the defense, and the run action is what I'll show you in a moment that really operates as a jab to the tight end side. We don't get that here. This is a play action, and there's a real elongation of the run-pass conflict for me. And I'm going to refer to that multiple times. To me, there's a couple of different ways you can get this done. And first 2 are kind of obvious. And it's you can line up the running back a half a yard deeper than normal. And that's a very simple way to get this done, because then the quarterback, running back mesh, if there is one that occurs, it occurs later. And that is a way to add time to the conflict for these inside linebackers or any second-level defenders. A second way to do it is for the running back to be in a very slow takeoff, which is kind of what we got here. A third way is a counter scheme that I'll show you here in a moment. You can see how easily the pocket's been created first. It's a max pro. Early in the game, I think it's the first possession. Now, Caleb Williams is off target here. It's only a 2-man route. To me, this is all designed to go to the dig. The later developing dig to the outside, the purple route to the inside. I think it's DJ Moore. Very inconsistent, I thought, on 2 of the throws that I'm going to show you in this video, talking about Caleb Williams. Lamar Jackson, doesn't generally miss that throw. But what I like about a lot of these, and what I'm trying to sell to you that I see at least, is that A, you can create time and space for Lamar Jackson, which is a killer for defenses. And then B, give very declared or designed reads to create space that doesn't require Lamar Jackson or really Derrick Henry's gravity to do so. I've actually broken down this formation ad nauseum for Detroit Lions fans, calling it broken bunch. I'll pull this back to the all-22 angle for a moment so you can see it's basically a mirrored image of what I just showed you that the Bears ran against the Steelers. 2 tight ends, one located at the top side and then one located at the downside of our screen. It's Sam Laporta to the right, and then Brock Wright, number 89, to the left. This is the jab, or what I would refer to as the jab from this formation. Run action to the left, David Montgomery, who of course has left Detroit at this point as well. All the offensive line are working to the left-hand side of our screen, except Penei Sewell. Now, this is not really to talk about what Penei Sewell does here. A little bit of a snatch on this defensive end, Lucas Van Ness. It's really to talk about the block by Sam Laporta, the angle that's being created. First of all, you've got the running back and all the offensive linemen working to the left. Yes, number 71, the guy getting a really quick start, is Kevin Zeitler. And he's taken over that defensive tackle quickly, so you can see Montgomery's able to take advantage of this running lane here. But what I really love about this is the blocking scheme with the tackle, Penei Sewell, and the tight end. Now, Laporta, I had him drawn up blocking the inside linebacker this way. That's not how this occurs. Think about all the offensive linemen working this way, running back, which in this case for the Ravens would be Derrick Henry, working that way. And if from 12 personnel, if you got base defense on the field, then you're going to get this backside inside linebacker going now. He can't slow play this. Well, all they do is build in the blocking scheme for Laporta to wall him in this direction and the running back to cut off of it. Basically, using the player, the inside linebacker, Quay Walker, who's obviously left and gone to the Raiders as well, using his reactions against him and making him incapable of being right. Broken bunch, it's a wind back run concept. If you ask me, I've got one more iteration of it that I think actually goes back to 2023 film. Zeitler is at right guard once again. So two tight ends on the field. Laporta, again, is the backside blocker here. The whole offensive lineman is going to work to their right or the bottom side of our screen. Gibbs is going to go in the same direction or this flow in the same direction initially off the snap. That inside linebacker is the guy who's put in conflict. It works out, well, there's two guys actually put in conflict. Both of them are on the backside. This inside linebacker, you can see Laporta basically wipe him out here, and then that allows Gibbs to cut off of him. In addition, the backside defensive end put in extreme conflict, and all of this is created no matter who the quarterback is. So we're talking about this defensive end here. Do you, veer off to the quarterback? You have to hold that position and honor the threat of the quarterback booting to the outside, but you have the tight end essentially inserting into the open B gap and blocking down on that inside linebacker. I would consider this the jab in this sequence of plays. Again, we're talking about Ravens in 2026. This is the same system. Ben Johnson in Detroit, Ben Johnson in Chicago, and I believe Smythe, the tight end, has already come out on the Lounge podcast and said that Declan Doyle is installing the exact same system here in Baltimore. One more from that same time period. I think this is actually 2024 film. I might be wrong. Zeitler might be at right guard once again. But this is a play concept they kept in Detroit for 2025 under their offensive coordinator, who they've since fired as well. And I think Baltimore is going to bring this to the fore in 26 with Declan Doyle. Basically, it's going to create the same look, a run action into the boundary where the one tight end is located, tight end closed or tight end nobody, depending on the system that people utilize. It could be called a nub tight end. Same blocking scheme is going to occur here with the right tackle, Sewell, and then Sam Laporta, whereby Sewell is going to base block out on the defensive end. I think it's Van Ness one more time, but this time it's not the run concept. So even though Laporta is inserting, they're trying to make this all look the same. Laporta is inserting into the B gap. You can see that now Sewell is actually letting the defensive end win into the B gap. He's letting him get into the B gap so that Sewell can preserve the outside for Goff to scramble if, in fact, he doesn't like either of the three options that are available. Really, there's four. You got two routes here to the bottom side of our screen, and then both tight ends are involved in the route. There's Laporta, who sat down after inserting into the B gap. Typically, remember, if it's a run concept, typically Laporta is going to go block that backside inside linebacker who would be pursuing in this direction. You know, as Ravens fans, forgive me if you think I've belabored too much talking about the Lions here, but my point is, Jared Goff is the last part of this process. He's the last option here. Well, that's going to be Lamar Jackson in 2026. And, you know, he obviously is a whole lot more athletic, faster, quicker to take advantage of things than Jared Goff is. And you can't say, well, the DN's going to react different. Well, what if the defensive end veers off here and it's a run concept, like the first two plays I showed you in this sequence for Detroit as it stands? That would create just a bigger running lane, a bigger wind back for Henry, Justice Hill, or whoever to bring this on top of. It's a really cool concept out of the broken bunch formation, which is 12 personnel. I showed you the first play from Chicago in 25. I believe these three fit right in line with what Declan Doyle's going to run here in 2026. All right, that same game against the Steelers, in fact, it's the same drive. And one of the things that Ben Johnson did in that game, and always does a great job of, is kind of installing or probing your reactions as a defensive staff. And in this case, it was the different versions of 12 or 13 personnel. Here you've got a jumbo one, and Pittsburgh has responded with their base 3-4 on the field. The Ravens actually ran this exact concept under Greg Roman and Todd Monken. I'm talking about that tight end / offensive lineman being in the backfield, and of course having to report eligible at the NFL level. There's the base 3-4 structure for the Steelers, even though you got Jalen Ramsey walked up into the box. And it's essentially a lead draw. Caleb Williams is going to fake the hitch. Lamar Jackson's run this 100 times in practice, I'm sure, but multiple times in the game. At the NFL level, people oftentimes call it a smoke hitch or pass concept. It would be to the bottom side of the field. Derek Moore, post-snap, just raising the ball up really quickly, making it look like he could throw the ball out there, and all that's doing is giving the running back and the fullback time to sync up on the draw play. We've run this for years. Why do I bring it to your attention? Because I think there's an added layer to the design, and that's the wide receiver up to the top side. Again, you've got a base block by the tight end, Cole Kmet up here on the edge defender, and then the wide receiver is going to step down and insert into the C-gap to go block that strong safety. I believe that Ben Johnson has these play concepts with tags for the quarterback. And what I mean by that is if this strong safety, Jalen Ramsey, was up here in a too-high safety structure, then the quarterback may not bring that receiver in motion, and all the other blocking schemes drawn up on the screen for you would remain the same. Essentially, giving or trying to build in a second running back lane for the back. The only thing is that by the wide receiver inserting down, you've brought the corner into play. Fortunately for Chicago, the running back veers it down to the bottom side of our screen, the right-hand side for the offense. It's a really nice design, if you ask me. I haven't been a huge fan of the play concept for the Ravens in recent years because formationally, it was just so predictable once we saw Ricard in the backfield split to one side or the other and Lamar under center. Same drive from that same game between the Bears and the Steelers. It's a 12 personnel group once again, but they've gone pistol and given you an actual bunch to the top side of the screen. They're going to catch Pittsburgh in a corner blitz from the boundary, probably called as a result of the 12 personnel group being on a 1st and 10. But Pittsburgh's given a different reaction. And look, Pittsburgh's got a different defensive coordinator. That's Patrick Graham, formerly of the Las Vegas Raiders. But it is interesting to me that Doyle was involved with the Bears, and they played the AFC North in 2025. Although, like I said, the Steelers and the Browns have a new defensive coordinator. In any case, here's the concept. It's another Max Pro look, and they do a really great job of manipulating the Steelers into eliciting this corner blitz from the boundary. Basically, the guy lined up over Luther Burden down here is Joey Porter Jr., and he's going to stem on a blitz, and it basically easily opens up Burden, if you ask me, on an in cut onto the right hash. Really only two routes involved here at all. You've got Zacchaeus from the top side running the over climb concept, deep post, whatever you want to call it. We're talking about this route here. Williams identified real quickly that Burden was available. It's into the boundary. To me, this is a Rashad Bateman route. This is a Rashad Bateman. Look for him right now off the in cut into the boundary out of a particular personnel group where we're trying to make it look like run with a quick play fake. And you can see the quarterback, in this case Caleb Williams, had his back turned to the defense. Inside linebacker Malik Harrison trying to get into the passing lane. You've seen a ton of this stuff over the years in Detroit under Ben Johnson. And according to Smythe, like I said earlier, Doyle is bringing all of it over. It's tough to imagine sitting there not taking advantage of some of the things that Ben Johnson, did in Chicago, that Ben Doyle saw how easily it was able to access. Second quarter of that same game against the Steelers, this is an 11 personnel group. I really like this play concept a lot because of the horizontal conflict that is built in, first by the motion, and then second by the post-snap path that one of the boundary side receivers down here on the bottom side of our screen will take. Actually going to show you a Lions play from 2024 or 2025 off of this. Basically, things that you can do. It's the jet series, essentially. I just did a video on jet sweep. You're welcome to check it out. I'll try to link it up in the description here. This is not a big game. Pittsburgh plays this pretty well from the nickel defensive alignment. Essentially, it's jet follow. Motion from the top side by one of the three receivers. And then the running back going in the same direction. But what I really like here is the cross action by the receiver at the bottom side of the screen. I would call this a hide concept. Different people have names for it. We've run this before. First play of the season for Baltimore 2022 against the Jets on the road. This is Rashad Bateman running across the heels of the offensive lineman into the flats for like a 5 or a 6-yard completion. We didn't run it a ton that year, but it really, to be honest with you, I have to phrase it this way. It's really kind of wing T-esque. You've got the direct run flow threat of the running back here at the time that the ball is extended. The boot action by the quarterback, that would be waggle pass. In addition, a receiver running out into the flats. Again, that's waggle pass, except from a personnel standpoint in the old wing T, that would be the fullback. This case, it's speed, right? It's a wide receiver running across the heels of the offensive line to go threaten out into the flats, hold this boundary side corner, or this top side's corner, in the opposite direction. Pittsburgh defends it pretty well. I think it's Patrick Queen and one of the interior defensive linemen. Like I said, it's a short game. Almost the exact same setup used in Detroit in 2025 on a Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown here against the Cowboys. This one essentially put that game away. It's an 11 personnel group. It's jumbo 11. You've got Dan Skipper, who's at this point since retired to be an assistant coach in Detroit. That's Dan Skipper, an actual offensive lineman reported as a tight end. But you got the jet follow nature of it, and it's very similar to that wineback stuff I described to you in the broken bunch formation earlier. I think I actually misidentified the guy in motion in a previous video as Sam Laporta. It's actually Isaac Tesla. In any case, it's jet follow, and then St. Brown is opposite of it, just like Zacchaeus on the previous play that I showed you for the Bears. The only difference is a lane opens up for St. Brown to insert underneath, and to me, this has to be a read for St. Brown. It must be very similar to the same blocking scheme that Laporta uses on the backside of Broken Bunch, or that I showed you on the first 3 plays, I believe, whereby Sewell, remember, was base blocking out on the defensive end, and Laporta was inserting underneath. To me, the rule here for St. Brown, or the read, must be, if you get an open window, take it, because that's exactly where Gibbs is going to go. You can see St. Brown skips through, goes to get the boundary side corner. I love this run concept, even though the first iteration that I showed you for the Bears against the Steelers wasn't successful at all. It's an 11 personnel group. It threatens into the boundary with the run action. And the quarterback, Lamar Jackson, even though it's Jared Goff here, potentially booting to the field, the wide side of the field where he could use his speed and athleticism. Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, whoever the other running back is, getting downhill on this thing, very similar to Jahmyr Gibbs on this fourth quarter touchdown. This one is really the same exact pass concept, as earlier. The only difference is the tight end is involved in one of the routes. It's a 12 personnel group, 13 personnel group, And so it's another example of Ben Johnson forcing the Steelers to match personnel group. In this case, he's matched up with his 4-3. You do have 3 inside linebackers on the field for the Steelers. In the case of Patrick Queen, and 2 actual inside linebackers who can be hybrids, whether it's a nickel or a base defense situation. So consistency with the concept, if you ask me, and that you have the run action into the boundary. That's illustrated by the red line emanating from the running back. And then the tight end going against that flow to go pass pro to the field, illustrated by the blue line from the top side into the boundary. It's a dig, basically the same play concept. And again, they're going to misfire on this. I think Caleb Williams throws it a little bit high. There's the tight end who blocks initially in motion. We're talking about this tight end here is Colston Loveland. He will block initially and then release out into the flat. So it does give Caleb Williams a third option. Here, if you ask me, what I like about this is the spacing that's created on the field for the dig route to run onto. There's a second tight end, or one of the 3 tight ends, I should say, running a seam route essentially to clear that out. But it doesn't take Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry's gravity to get this done. The thumbnail pic that I used for this video is from camp last week, and it's Lamar Jackson, under center, and he seems to be, directing someone. You can see Caleb Williams just misfires on this one. It's a little bit high. I'm not giving you the end zone angle of this one. Queen is, kind of in the window, so perhaps he's trying to make sure he elevates the throw above him and doesn't give Queen an opportunity to get his hands on it. But from the end zone angle, it really looked like to me it was just a miss by Caleb Williams. What I really like here is it's a structured way to attack certain areas of the field that the play caller has identified when this will be available, and then made the play call at the appropriate time. And again, it doesn't rely on Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry to get that spacing created at all. One more play from Chicago's game against the Steelers in 2025. Remember the days when they said Lamar couldn't play under center, right? The football analysis often seems so reactionary. And we have clear evidence from 23, 24, even 25 when the offense was terrible that Lamar is capable of doing so. And I think that's one of the reasons why Mentor brought in Declan Doyle, for the system that could accentuate what Lamar is capable of doing, but in addition, create more conflict for the defense with Lamar's back turned to them so that they can't pick and choose who to go to and just wipe him out of the game by read, by declaration. In any case, this is a 4th and 1 play that I think really fits for the Ravens. It's, of course, not under center. It's an 11 personnel group, trips closed A, and they've really manipulated Pittsburgh's defense by setting the 3 receivers to the field and the tight end down here into the boundary. The Steelers are setting up in man, if you ask me, whereby Duggar, the safety at the bottom side of the screen, is on the tight end, and then Malik Harrison, the inside linebacker, is on the running back. So they make it look like a mesh for a moment, not the mesh concept of pass play. Mesh between the running back and the quarterback is what I mean. So Caleb Williams sticks the ball out in front of him with Swift potentially crossing his face and going in the other direction. Now, I've got this paused, but this really happens faster than I'm letting you guys visually gather, I guess, because I've got it paused for a moment to illustrate the steps of Malik Harrison matching DeAndre Swift. Because really what Swift does is then put his foot in the ground and lead the way for the quarterback into the boundary. So kind of taking advantage of Malik Harrison's inability to adjust, or maybe on 4th and 1, look, he's trying to stop the run. If the ball is given to Swift, they need Malik Harrison here, right? Really cool play call, if you ask me, by Ben Johnson. Declan Doyle, I'm sure, will have stuff like this in the playbook available to use Lamar Jackson for strategically on a 4th and 1. It's a great example, if you ask me, of using the defense's reaction against them. Don't really remember us doing stuff like this as far as faking the mesh between the quarterback and the running back and then running behind a lead blocker. As you can see, a little bit of a late hit by Jalen Ramsey. I think it's C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's since moved on to Buffalo, that kind of steps up to him and grabs him for a moment. All right, 4 plays from an absolute scalding that Chicago put on the Browns in Week 15. Of course, their season had spiraled out of control long before. The Bears didn't turn the football over, first of all. They ran for 140, I think threw for 215, maybe 230, something like that. 21 first downs. They really had a great idea, if you ask me, of how to attack these wide set defensive ends in an even front, or a 4-3 that the Browns often play. In this case, it's a 12 personnel group, and you've got a bunch set up to the field, going to motion one of the tight ends down into the boundary. And again, you've got the running back action to the boundary, but it's a counter. It's a delayed look by the running back. So I'll let that flow a little bit so you can see what I mean, in that the running back is taking a counter step and then bringing his path back down into the boundary. We're talking about DeAndre Swift here for a moment. I'll get to the receiver block in a moment that I have spot shadowed. I really like the concept here, to be honest with you. It allows DJ Moore to get into his route from the boundary because he's directly underneath. That's a Rashad Bateman route, if you ask me, number 1. Number 2, because of the running back steps, the counter action with the right guard pulling as well, it really holds these second-level defenders, or the design of it, is to hold the second-level defenders. Since the Browns are in a one-high safety look, the wide receiver is able to pin down this defensive end because he's got him outflanked, meaning he lined up further in this direction than the defensive end did. No, you don't want a receiver blocking a defensive end, but if and when you do, you don't generally want that. If and when you do, you got to give them leverage, number 1. I think we'll see this concept. I don't know necessarily who that receiver is on this roster right now, but in any case, you can see what we've got. Created a whole bunch of space for Caleb Williams to run onto. That'll be Lamar. The natural flow of DJ Moore's route here, the tight end Colston Loveland, and track this field side corner for a moment. He does a great job, if you ask me, looking for work After realizing, okay, the ball isn't still in Caleb Williams' hands, I'm going to let someone else, in this case it's a defensive tackle, Mason Graham, who falls to the ground, go be the quarterback contain player. If this is Lamar Jackson, we got an easy opportunity to go get some yards. And of course, Caleb Williams could have gone and done that here as well. Really nice job by the corner for the Browns, number 27, to turn and go find work to the field. Keep that reaction in mind for another play that I'm going to show you a little bit later. This is an incompleted pass by Colston Loveland, or to Colston Loveland, along the right sideline. Same first drive, and you've got a 12 personnel group. It's ace under center, meaning you've got one tight end to the left, one tight end to the right. Both receivers are kind of compressed or condensed. Everyone is lined up from the top of the numbers here to just outside the hash on the other side. At the NFL level, those hashes are really close together, so you got a super compressed formation here, if you ask me. Tight end in motion, and you're going to get a run action to the field. I really like the way they block this. So the tight end and the tackle are comboing together on the defensive end. They know where that defensive end is going to be. To be honest with you guys, it almost makes me wish, don't judge me here, it almost makes me wish Jim Schwartz and the defense coordinators for the Steelers from last year were returning in 2026, because Chicago kind of showed, Ben Johnson in Chicago kind of showed a blueprint of how to attack them. It's a give to the running back. I know you kind of lose orientation for the running back here. It's DeAndre Swift. But basically you've got tight end looping to the outside, combo on this defensive end. They're going to combo him up to the front side inside linebacker, who you see will show up. DJ Moore goes to get the safety, presumably, or an inside linebacker who shows up. Tight end loops outside. So you've got this real nice cross action of the blocking scheme, if you ask me. Look at the lane for Swift or Henry, Justice Hill, whoever to run onto. It's a great play call, if you ask me, a great way to attack the one high safety structure that the Browns consistently presented under Jim Schwartz. When I say that Ben Johnson is a savant at setting up defenses, defensive coordinators, and creating conflict or gauging your reactions and then having a supplementary play off of it, perhaps I will not be able to explain it in a way that satisfies for you that statement. I think the film here kind of gives you the best illustration. You got another play action boot, same drive against the Browns. Remember the corner's reaction on the pass that was incomplete to Colston Loveland, where Caleb Williams, could have scrambled? First of all, look at the counter step, how long it takes for DeAndre Swift to flow back to the bottom side of our screen, the left-hand side, number one. Number two, now you've got a little bit deeper route by DJ Moore, number one. And then up to the top side, the corner is going to be put in severe conflict by three things. The inside tight end stepping out to the defensive end. We're talking about that little orange line there, illustrating the block. And then the outside tight end running a seam or a vertical. Watch that boundary side corner, react to that. And then once he sees that it's not a give, we're talking about this corner here, turning his back to the quarterback and looking for work from the opposite side. It all works perfectly. Why? Because 84 Colston Loveland is stepping to the defensive end for a moment here. And then once Caleb Williams boots to the outside, that defensive end leaves. Since the corner has vacated as well, Colston Loveland wide open. This is a perfect example. Perhaps my explanation is not perfect, of Ben Johnson gauging your reaction as a defensive coordinator, defensive staff to a particular thing. In addition, because he's motioned the tight end, that's Smythe, by the way, that brings the safety, Grant Delpit, with him. So just really isolates that boundary side corner, and there's no real option for the corner. If you ask me, does he go to the quarterback, Caleb Williams? Does he stay with the tight end? Continue to look for work. That reaction, was already built in. It's a checkbox, essentially. Ben Johnson is a guy who I think runs a play, or multiple plays, early in the games. And next to his play call, he's got a checkbox. Check, the guy reacted in a way that we can exploit later, or X, I don't like his reaction, therefore I won't call the second or the third play in that sequence. Hopefully I explain that in a way that makes sense, and you can see the way that the tight end blocking scheme really cleared out this space up here for Colston Loveland to run onto. When I said earlier that there's a lot of convergence or overlap in things that I've covered and talked about for the last couple of years. I really meant it. I mean, here's one that I was shocked by. It's a diamond formation out of 12 personnel. The Ravens have used this for years, right down into the red zone, which is exactly where it's occurring here. We would normally get like the dual read concept, whereby one tight end was looping to the outside hard-coded. Another tight end and Lamar Jackson would both be reading a defensive end. That's not really what occurs here, even though we kind of get the same blocking scheme a little bit. The downside tight end, Colston Loveland, is looping to the outside. That's hard-coded. And I think he's just trying to get both of these guys to expand. The defensive end and the safety and or inside linebacker that are assigned to guard him. Again, Jim Schwartz playing all man free, so you knew what you were going to get. Here, since both tight ends are, they're fullbacks, since they're lined up in the backfield, neither one of these guys is Smythe, by the way, although he does line up in the backfield. What that does is it really forces this player in a lot of conflict. You've got the zone scheme by the offensive line is at him, but the tight end flow is opposite. Both tight ends, I should say, their flow is opposite. So he really gets kind of stepped down inside. It almost, to me, looks like his reaction and his path, if you will, is related to this release of the tight end by that orange line that I just drew over the top of. Why do I mention all of that? Because the way the blocking scheme works out, Swift is able to just run up inside of the defensive end for the Browns. Again, they just scalded this defense. They knew exactly how to react them, or how they would react and how to take advantage of it. Look, guys, I watched 5 possessions, and at that point I was like, this is a mismatch in terms of organization. I know that Cleveland was a beaten dog at the end of that season. Don't get me wrong. We still had trouble at times with their defense last year. They had things figured out, in my opinion, again, in both of these games, against the Browns specifically, as far as what their reactions would be. The Steelers was more a little bit of a probing nature by Ben Johnson, essentially seeing how they would react to something and then exploiting it a little bit later on. I didn't really go into depth with the Browns game there as far as what I showed you. Like I said, I watched 5 possessions. It ended up being a 31-3 win. Ben Johnson pretty much knew what he was going to get early in the game. Unfortunately, whatever Declan Doyle learned, both of those teams, Steelers and Browns, have different defense coordinators in 2026. There's a lot to be said here. I don't have any more plays to show. Maybe I showed too much. I don't know. In my opinion, I'm not a fan of going back to the future or back to the past, I guess, but this is a different mindset in some ways to Monken. And I don't want to distill this down too much, right? Because at the NFL level, there's a number of concepts that everybody runs. And then it just becomes about, some people would say, it just becomes about execution. I think there's a really big caveat there. It's about knowing when to call it, which is related to why. And that, to me, is something that Ben Johnson is a savant at. Attacking defenses here for a reason. Generally, or oftentimes, it's from under center, right? It's with the under center run game and the quarterback boot threat, the play action off of it. It's an advanced version of it, in my opinion, at the NFL level. One that Ben Johnson was successful with, incredibly successful with Jared Goff, and then Caleb Williams, last year. They're one interception away, I think an overtime interception away of beating the Rams and being the team to go to Seattle in the NFC Championship game. One of those quarterbacks that Ben Johnson's worked with, not very athletic, Goff. Incredibly prepared, though, to adjust both pre and post-snap, gets the ball out quick. Another guy there that he's worked with, Caleb Williams, for 1 year, clearly more athletic, right? A lot of bold confidence in big moments. I'm talking about Caleb Williams. What has happened for Lamar is oftentimes we've had this creation of schemes or concepts that rely on or accentuate his athletic ability, right? What he can do. And I guess I'll use one example of that. You could talk about Roman with the option stuff. It worked out well, right? We won a lot of games. Lamar won his first MVP and got a big contract from that. But I'm more so talking about Monken. We'll just focus on one example. When Monken admitted that a lot of his pass concepts were like 2 play calls in one, right? There's a deeper developing routes down the field after the first option or first read for Lamar. And that's just to clear out defenders, create space for Lamar to possibly scramble onto. Now, I'm really talking about like 3rd and 6 there, 3rd and 7 with some routes down the field. And we have seen that work, right? Don't get me wrong. Before Monken came to Baltimore, it worked oftentimes. And while he was here, there's a lot of ways to get things done. I don't like blanket approaches, and I'm not going to pass judgment on Monken in a way that's inconsistent with the way that I talked about him before when he was here, because I enjoyed what he did here and how he got things done. Having said that, the offensive line was an absolute mess from a construction and a design standpoint, and Monken hired the guy in Cleveland who was involved in that. So we have to be realistic about that. I'm talking about 24 and 25. In any case, now we're looking at a system that is, if you ask me, created to work independent of a supreme athlete like Lamar. As far as Goff and Caleb Williams go, on the athleticism scale, let's do, negative 50 to 50. Goff would be like a positive 15. Williams would probably be like a positive 30, somewhere in that range. I'm talking about the NFL level. Where's Lamar on a negative 50 to 50 range? He's like an 80, right? He's the gold standard for it. And for me, for what I heard Smythe say in that conversation, I think it was on the lounge, things we've seen online from camp, like pictures or plays, this is not a Lamar Jackson offense. It will be at certain points. And that's the whole reason why you have a guy like Lamar. If and when things break down, right, you're trying to drive to score late second quarter or drive to win the game, that's important. That's the most important, in some ways, the most important thing changes at certain times. The base offensive structure here, in my opinion, if we believe what Smythe has said, and we can backtrack a little bit to what they ran in Chicago last year under Caleb Williams, who had unbelievable difficulties and mountains of issues as a rookie, a lot of which were not his own, pass protection, some of which were holding onto the ball too long. I can backtrack personally even further to what Ben Johnson ran in Detroit. I see huge convergence, overlap here with those offenses, and it makes me excited, to be honest with you. Essentially, to see us not rely on Lamar as much to get the job done, on first and second down at least. To me, that's what a lot of Ravens fans have been asking for. Now, 2024 kind of did that, right, with Henry. And how did that turn out for Lamar when he didn't have to be the guy on every single snap? 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, the highest quarterback rating of his career, 119 something. I think that was 4th all time behind Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning. 2 of them were Rodgers, right? One of which when he was like 38 years old or something. To me, we've got an obvious attempt here in Baltimore under Minter and then Doyle to utilize an offensive system that isn't Lamar. We won't ask him, if you follow my line of thinking at least, we won't ask him to be the leadoff hitter and the cleanup guy at the same time. To some degree, I waited on a couple of videos like this. I have a second one already recorded because I wasn't sure of what we were going to get. Declan Doyle, to me, is an under center guy who wants to run the football and be able to utilize play action to hold backside defenders. And I hopefully early in the video here, talking about the broken bunch and the designed wind-back runs off of it, gave you a very clear example of what I'm talking about when I say you're talking about a very advanced system of doing that. Yes, Clint Kubiak and many others, the Shanahan system, McVay as well, even though he relies on 11 personnel to get it done, those guys say and declare, we want to run the ball from under center and use backside play action concept to hold defenders, put them in conflict in a way that opens up possible running lanes, right? That's how Sean McVay got to his first Super Bowl when Bill Belichick and Brian Flores essentially deconstructed his offense for him. Here, to me, we've got an advanced version of that under Ben Johnson, even compared to those offenses, one of which, Clint Kubiak, just won a Super Bowl in Seattle. When I say advanced version, it's because they can so consistently, so easily create angles that A, give the running back a larger running lane to break off of or make his cut, and B, create space for the quarterback and time for the quarterback as well as open parts of the field for receivers to run onto. Hopefully I was able to do some of that at the beginning of this video. I had a lot of fun creating it. I wanted to get this one out for Saturday morning, becoming almost impossible to get things produced on Friday night or early Saturday morning. If you guys enjoyed this one, please let me know in the comments section. I know it didn't include any Ravens film at all, but if you stuck around this long, you must have enjoyed some aspect of it. Feel free to give me some feedback on making a Ravens video that doesn't include any Baltimore film at all. I didn't think it needed it. We don't have it yet. I don't get to go to camp or practices, unfortunately, maybe someday. So I can't talk about the things that you see at all. And even the guys who get to go there are limited on what they can say. I think these are the things that are being installed. I think these are the things that Declan Doyle wants to run as much as possible. And then when we have to be, or are forced to be in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, then there'll be different concepts that show up. And that'll be the second video that I alluded to a little bit earlier. If you guys enjoyed it, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, if you think other Ravens fans would like to hear what I have to say, as well as see the plays that hopefully illustrate or run alongside it, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.